My name is Tony Mercer, and I've worked as a caver for most of my adult life. Not recreationally, not as a thrill seeker. I mean professionally. Mapping systems, assisting with recoveries, checking old mines, and guiding people who have no business being underground without someone who knows what they're doing. Most of my work has been in Appalachia, where the cave systems run deep, old, and mostly undocumented. If you've seen The Descent or read about Ted the Caver, you already have a frame of reference. Some of that stuff is exaggerated, some isn't. The part that's usually missing is how people survive these places more than once. Panic isn't what gets you out. Strength doesn't either. What keeps you alive are rules, specific ones, that exist because something happened badly enough that someone felt the need to warn the next person. Most caves are dangerous in predictable ways. Loose rock, low oxygen, bad footing, you can train for that. You prepare, you mitigate risk, rock behaves like rock, sound echoes the way sound should, air moves where it's supposed to move. But not every cave follows those rules. The system I'm writing about sits deep in the Appalachian Range, far from any tourist access or marked trail. There's no sign pointing toward it. No fence, no warning placard. Just a narrow opening hidden by brush and stone, and a steady draft of cold air coming from a place that never sees sunlight. You don't find it by accident. Someone has to tell you where it is. The first time I went in, I wasn't alone. I was with Forrest Hale, who grew up in northern Georgia and carried himself like someone who didn't waste energy reacting to things until they actually mattered. Forrest had a slow southern drawl, steady hands, and the kind of calm you only get after spending years underground when things go wrong. He trusted his instincts more than equipment, and they'd keep him alive longer than most. The third was Laura Bennett. Laura was precise, careful, without being timid. She noticed changes in the cave before anybody else. Airflow shifts, subtle sounds, places where the rock felt wrong under your hand. She didn't talk much while moving, but when she did, it was because something needed attention. I trusted her judgment completely. We'd been inside parts of that system before, but on one trip we pushed farther than usual, past the sections we knew, past the points where most people turned back, deep enough that the rock stopped looking familiar and the air felt heavier. And that was when I saw it. Carved directly into the stone wall of a narrow chamber, far enough inside that no one would do it casually, were 6 rules, not written in chalk, not scratched by a knife. They were cut into the rock, deep grooves worn smooth around the edges by time and moisture. Whoever carved them hadn't rushed. Each line was very deliberate. They were numbered 1 through 6. No explanation, no symbols, just the rules. I stood there for a long time, reading them over and over. I didn't understand most of them at first. Some didn't make sense at all. Forrest was quiet when he saw them. Laura took pictures and didn't say a word. I took a photo too. At the time, I thought they were a warning left by someone who got spooked. Maybe a joke. Maybe superstition carved in stone by miners or early cavers who didn't know any better. I was wrong. Over the years that followed, I learned exactly why each rule was there, one at a time. The hard way. Rule number 1. If you see green frogs, do not lick them. The first rule was carved deeper than the rest. I noticed that. The grooves were wider, more worn, as if more hands had traced over it than the others. Either that, or it'd simply been there longer. At the time, I thought it was a joke. I mean, who needs to be told not to lick a frog? I didn't say that out loud. Forrest was standing a few feet back, headlamp angled toward the ceiling, checking for fractures. Laura was photographing the wall with her phone, making sure to get the carving from different angles. Still, the thought crossed my mind. Of all the dangers underground, collapse, bad air, disorientation, that was the first rule someone chose to carve into stone? I wouldn't have laughed if I'd known what lived deeper in the system. Now, we didn't see frogs that day. Not on the first trip after finding the rules, anyway. We finished our survey, backed out the way we came, and didn't think much more about it. I remember joking about it later over coffee, calling it common sense carved in limestone. Laura didn't laugh. Forrest didn't either. It was weeks later when we ran into him. We were deeper than usual, past a section where the ceiling dropped low enough that you had to crawl on your stomach for a good 30 feet before it opened up again. The air down there felt thick, humid in a way that didn't match the rest of the cave. There was no standing water, no stream, no drip you could point to and say that's why. Just damp stone and a smell I couldn't place at first. Forrest noticed them before I did. "Don't move," he said quietly. That got my attention. Forrest didn't stop people unless he had a reason. I froze where I was, one knee down, 1 foot planted, headlamp steady. "What is it?" I asked. "Look," he said. "Real slow." I followed his beam. At first I thought they were boulders, rounded shapes scattered across the floor of the chamber, clustered near the walls. And then one of them moved. It wasn't a hop or a crawl. It was more like a slow adjustment, a heavy body settling its weight. And that was when my brain finally caught up and understood what I was looking at. Frogs. Big green ones. Bright, unnatural green, like fresh paint that hadn't dried yet. Their skin wasn't slimy the way you'd expect. It was almost velvety, stretched tight over thick bodies. Each one was about the size of a small dog, bigger than any frog had a right to be. Wide backs, thick hind legs folded beneath them, front limbs tucked in close. Their eyes were yellow, not gold or amber, yellow, like old headlights. They didn't blink. They just stared, mouths slightly open. There were 6 of them I could see. Laura whispered my name, barely audible. "Tony," she said. "I feel weird." I turned my head slowly, careful not to take my eyes off the frogs. Laura was standing closer to them, and her posture had changed. Her shoulders were loose, her head tilted slightly, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. "I'm fine," she said, even though I hadn't asked. "They're kind of beautiful, aren't they?" And that was when I felt it too. It wasn't a voice or a sound. It was more like a suggestion, planted gently and repeatedly. A pull. A calm, steady urge to take one step closer. Just one. To reach out, to touch the skin, to see what it felt like. My mouth filled with saliva. Forrest swore under his breath and grabbed Laura's arm hard enough that she yelped. The sound snapped something in my head, like breaking the surface of water, and I realized I'd been leaning forward without meaning to. "Back up," Forrest said. His voice was louder now, sharper. "Now." Laura blinked rapidly, confusion washing over her. "Why, what's wrong?" I didn't answer. I just grabbed her other arm, and together Forrest and I pulled her back, step by step, slow enough not to spook the frogs. My heart was hammering, but I kept my breathing steady. The frogs didn't move. They didn't hop towards us or chase us. They just sat there, watching, mouths open, throats pulsing gently as they breathed. As we retreated, one of them croaked. It wasn't loud or aggressive. It was low and rhythmic, almost soothing. Another frog answered it. Then another. and soon all of them were croaking in a slow overlapping pattern that made my head feel light. Laura stumbled. Forrest caught her before she went down. "Don't listen," he said to her. "Don't look." We backed out of the chamber. The croaking followed us for a while, echoing through the tunnels, and then faded as the air shifted and the sound finally died. We didn't stop moving until we were a good distance away. Laura sat down hard against the wall, breathing fast. "What the hell was that?" she asked. I felt like I was going to pass out." Forrest didn't answer right away. He stared down the tunnel we'd come from, jaw tight. "That's why the rule's there," he said finally. I thought about the carving, the deep grooves, the worn stone. People who actually... "Yeah," Forrest interrupted. Later, after we were back above ground, he told us what he knew. Not theories or rumors, actual reports. People who encountered the frogs and ignored the rule didn't die right away. The frogs secreted a toxin through their skin. Not fast-acting, not painful. It soaked in through the tongue, through the mouth. Paralysis followed. Hallucinations. Complete loss of muscle control. Victims would collapse where they stood, and then the frogs would move. Their jaws unhinged wider than should have been possible, and they swallowed their prey whole, slowly. Some people were found later, those who'd been only partially consumed before something scared the frogs off. Others were never found at all. Forrest told us about one man who'd survived. Barely. He'd been pulled out by his partner before the frogs finished. His skin was burned raw. His tongue swollen to twice its size, and he was missing 2 fingers and most of the muscle from one calf. The man couldn't explain why he'd done it, why he leaned in, touched the frog, and licked it. He just said it felt like the right thing to do at the time. When we went back into the cave weeks later, the frogs were gone. Or maybe they just went deeper. Either way, I never forgot the way they watched us. Patient. When I look at the carving now, if you see green frogs, do not lick them. I don't think it's a joke anymore. I don't think it's obvious. I think it's the kind of rule someone only writes down after watching something terrible happen. I always follow it. Rule number 2. Always mark your path. The second rule didn't stand out the way the first one did. Wasn't dramatic or strange. It was the kind of thing every caver already knows. Which is probably why it gets ignored more often. Always mark your path. When I first read it carved into the rock, I remember thinking it was unnecessary, almost insulting. Anyone who's been underground more than a handful of times knows that rule already. You don't just wander into a cave and hope muscle memory gets you back. The problem is familiarity. This rule exists because familiarity is dangerous. The incident that made it stick happened months after we found the carvings. It wasn't in a deep system or an unmapped section. It was in a cave we'd been through more times than I could count. And that is what nearly killed us. The cave was a known Appalachian limestone system with multiple entrances, looping passages, and several large chambers connected by low corridors. Nothing extreme. No squeezes that would trap you or vertical drops. The kind of place people get real comfortable in. Forrest had been in it dozens of times. Laura had guided there before. I knew the general layout well enough that I didn't even bother pulling the map before we went in. And that should have been my first warning sign. We entered mid-morning. Clear weather, no rush, no pressure, just a short survey to check a section that had reportedly shifted after heavy rain. In and out. That was the plan. We didn't mark the trail. Not with tape, not with chalk, not even with simple reference marks. The thinking was simple and stupid. We know this cave. Well, for the first 40 minutes, everything was exactly as expected. Same wide passages, same worn stone, same places where the ceiling dipped low enough that you had to duck without thinking about it. Headlamps steady, backup lights checked, plenty of battery life. We reached the section we were there to inspect, a side passage that branched off from a larger corridor. The floor was slick with mud, and the ceiling had dropped a little since the last time we'd been there, but nothing serious. No collapse or instability. We noted it, took measurements, snapped a few photos, and then we turned around to leave. And that was when things started to go wrong. The main corridor looked the same. That's the problem. In limestone caves, especially older ones, everything erodes in similar patterns. Same curves and textures, same dull gray color. Once you're inside long enough, your brain starts filling in details that aren't actually there. We walked for about 10 minutes before Laura stopped. "This doesn't feel right," she said. Forrest frowned. "What do you mean?" "Well, we should have hit the wider chamber by now." I checked my watch. She was right. We'd been walking longer than expected. I slowed, scanning the walls, trying to spot something familiar. A crack, a marking, anything. Nothing jumped out. "Maybe we took the longer loop," I said, though I wasn't confident. We kept moving. 5 minutes later, Forrest stopped this time. "Yeah, that turn back there, I don't remember that being there." I turned around. The passage behind us split into two. Both looked equally worn, equally traveled. Neither had any obvious distinguishing features. And I felt the first real flicker of unease then. "All right," I said, let's just slow down." We chose the left passage. Another 10 minutes passed. The air felt heavier, not because anything had changed, but because we were starting to breathe harder. Laura kept glancing behind us. Forrest adjusted his headlamp twice, angling it differently, like he was trying to force familiarity out of the rock. And then my light flickered. Just once. Quick enough that I almost convinced myself I imagined it. I checked the battery indicator. Lower than it should have been. And that's when the cave stopped feeling like a place and started feeling like a big problem. We stopped completely. No talking, just listening to our own breathing. "All right, we need to pick a direction and commit," Forrest said. "And if it's wrong?" Laura asked. I didn't answer right away. We chose the right passage this time. The ceiling dropped lower. The floor sloped unevenly. The air felt stale. My light flickered again, longer this time. I slowed my pace without realizing it, and that's when Forrest's light went out. Just off. "Shit," he said quietly. He slapped the side of his headlamp. Nothing. He switched to his backup. Dimmer, narrower beam, but it worked. "All right, we need to move now," I said. Panic doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in through small failures sometimes. A wrong turn, a dead light, a familiar place becoming unfamiliar. Laura's breathing was shallow now. She kept close behind me, one hand on my pack so she wouldn't drift off course in the dark. My light flickered again. We walked faster. And every passage started to look wrong. Every turn felt like a mistake. I tried to picture the map in my head and couldn't. The mental image, it kept slipping away, replaced by stone and darkness and the sound of our boots scraping mud. And then my light died. Complete darkness. I froze instinctively, heart slamming into my ribs. "Tony?" Laura said. Her voice was tight. "I'm here," I said, forcing calm. "Backup light." My hand shook as I fumbled for it, and when it clicked on, the beam was weak, barely enough to see 10 feet ahead. Forest backup was fading too. We stood there for a moment, 3 people in a cave we thought we knew, relying on lights that were actively failing. "This is my fault," I said. "We should have marked it." Forrest didn't argue. Laura didn't either. We moved again, slower now, sticking close, careful not to waste battery. Every decision felt heavy. Every turn could be the last wrong one. Finally, after many hours, we felt air moving. A faint draft, cool against my face. We followed it. The beam from my backup caught a faint glow ahead. Daylight. We stumbled out of the entrance, collapsing onto the ground like we just finished a marathon. And my light died completely seconds later. We sat there in silence for a long time. There were no monsters this time, no strange sounds, no supernatural explanation. Just 3 experienced cavers who made a terrible decision and nearly paid for it. A week later, when I stood in front of the carved rules again, I understood why the second one existed. Always mark your path, not because the cave changes, but because you do. You forget things sometimes. You get confused. And you don't always get lucky. Rule 3. If you go underground alone, always bring tacs. Now, when I read the 3rd rule carved into the rock, it bothered me more than the others. Not because it was scary, but because it made no sense. If you go underground alone, always bring tacs. Not food or sugar or candy. Tacs. Specific. Narrow. No explanation, no variation. Forrest stared at it for a long moment, and then shook his head. "That's weird," he said. "Why not just say snacks?" Laura crouched to get a closer look at the carving. "Doesn't look like a joke," she said. "Someone took their time with this." I agreed with that much. The grooves were deliberate and deep. Whoever carved the rules didn't rush, and they did not improvise. They wrote exactly what they meant. Still, I didn't understand the rule. I didn't understand it even a week later, standing inside a gas station just off the highway, grabbing supplies for an early morning cave check. It was a nothing stop. One of those places you pull into without thinking, faded signage, humming lights, shelves packed too tight. I grabbed water, jerky, batteries, normal stuff. And as I walked toward the counter, my eyes landed on a small rack of mints. Tacs. I stared at them. The rule crossed my mind. I hadn't planned to go in alone that day, but plans change, schedules shift. And even if they didn't, the rule didn't say only bring them if you're alone. It said always bring them if you're alone. And I figured having them couldn't hurt. What the hell? I grabbed a box. I didn't think it was important. I didn't think it meant anything. I just tossed them in my pack and paid. The solo run happened 3 days later. Forrest was out of state. Laura had another commitment. The cave wasn't deep or new, and it wasn't dangerous by any reasonable standard. I needed to check airflow in a known side passage after a stretch of heavy rain. In and out. 30 minutes, maybe 40. I debated waiting. And then I told myself I'd been underground alone dozens of times without issue. I had gear and experience. I had backup plans. I didn't think about the tacs again until much later. The cave entrance was quiet that morning. Cool air rolling out, steady and familiar. I checked my watch, logged my entry time, and went in. The first part of the route was wide enough to walk upright. The stone walls were smooth, worn by water over centuries. My headlamp caught a clean beam ahead of me. Everything was normal. The side passage I was checking branched off from the main corridor at a shallow angle. It sloped downward gently, then leveled out. I made my way in, checking airflow with a strip of tape, pausing occasionally to feel the rock for instability. No issues. I reached the turnaround point, marked my notes, and headed back. And that was when I realized something was wrong. The passage looked slightly different coming back. Not enough to set off alarms immediately, but enough to make me slow down. The ceiling felt lower. The walls seemed closer together. I brushed it off as fatigue and kept moving. And then I reached a junction that should not have been there. I stopped. I stood still, letting my breathing settle, scanning the walls carefully. 2 passages. Both sloped upward. Both looked equally worn. I was certain, absolutely certain, that there had only been one way back. I checked my watch again. I hadn't been inside long. Wasn't panicking yet. I chose the left passage. It narrowed quickly, forcing me to turn sideways to keep moving. The floor dipped sharply, and I had to brace myself against the wall to avoid slipping. I didn't like that, but I kept going, expecting it to open up again. It didn't. I turned around. The slope I'd just descended looked steeper from this angle. The opening felt smaller. I tried climbing back up, and my boots slipped on damp stone. I tried again, slower. On the third attempt, a chunk of rock shifted under my weight and slid down, wedging itself awkwardly near the narrowest part of the passage. The opening was still there, just not comfortably. I backed away and sat down hard on the stone floor, heart pounding. Okay, that's not good. Talking helped a little, kept my thoughts from spiraling. I checked my gear, primary light steady, backup lights untouched, plenty of battery life, water, food, radio no signal. But that wasn't surprising. The rock was thick here. I wasn't trapped yet. I stood and took the other passage. 10 minutes later, I realized I was completely disoriented. The walls looked identical no matter which direction I turned. The floor sloped inconsistently, sometimes down, sometimes up. My internal sense of direction, usually reliable, was gone. Every turn felt wrong. I stopped again. And that was when my primary light flickered. Just once. I stared at it, waiting for another flicker. It stayed on, but the beam felt weaker somehow, like it wasn't reaching as far. I switched to my backup light immediately. I moved slower now, counting steps, keeping one hand on the wall at all times. My breathing was louder than I liked. After a while, long enough that I stopped checking my watch, I remembered the rule: if you go underground alone, always bring tacs. I frowned, reaching into my pack more out of habit than belief. My fingers closed around the small plastic box immediately, and I pulled it out and stared at it. Bright white lid, green lettering, completely out of place in the dark. Why would this matter? I said. I shook the box lightly. The sound was sharp, loud in the confined space. Then I heard movement. It sounded like something flapping its wings, and then a faint scrape above me. I angled my light upward, and perched on a narrow ledge near the ceiling was a crow. Black and white feathers, sharp beak, pale eyes reflecting my light. It shouldn't have been there. Birds don't fly that deep underground. There was no food, no light, no reason for it to be there. It didn't move or make a sound. It just watched me. I didn't move either. And then, slowly, for a reason I still don't understand, I opened the tic-tac box. The sound echoed again, and the crow shifted, hopping once closer along the ledge. I took a tic-tac out and held it up on my palm. The crow tilted its head, studying me, then leaned forward and plucked it gently from my hand. Then it turned and flew. Not erratically, not circling, straight down a passage I hadn't tried yet. It landed once, looked back at me, and stayed there. And I didn't think about it or question it, I just followed. The passage sloped upward. The air felt fresher with every step. My backup light dimmed further, barely holding on. The crow flew again, and then vanished around a bend. And seconds later, I saw daylight. I stepped out of the cave and I sat on the ground for a long time after that, staring at the entrance. I don't know exactly why tic-tacs matter. I don't know why that crow showed up. What I do know is this. I brought those tic-tacs on a whim, and if I hadn't, I would not have survived. Rule 4. If the walls start breathing, run. The fourth rule was the shortest one carved into the rock. No explanation or qualifiers, just a sentence that didn't leave room for interpretation. If the walls start breathing, run. When I first read it, I assumed it was shorthand, a warning about unstable rock, condensation, pressure shifts, something you could explain away with geology if you wanted to. Limestone caves, they do strange things. Expansion, contraction, water pressure, changing the way surfaces look under a headlamp. That's what I told myself. But over the years, I heard the same story 3 times. Different people, different caves, same description. The first account came from a woman named Amy Madigan. No, not the actress. Amy wasn't inexperienced. She'd been caving for years and had assisted on multiple survey and rescue operations. She wasn't reckless, and she wasn't prone to exaggeration. I trusted her judgment, which is why I listened when she told me what happened. Her incident occurred near the entrance of an old mine tunnel that connected to a natural cave system. The opening was wide enough to walk through upright, and daylight was visible from where she'd been working. She and her team had been mapping side passages when she slipped and twisted her ankle badly enough that she couldn't put weight on it. The decision was made quickly. 2 people would head out to get help. Amy would stay put near the entrance, where there was airflow and enough room to sit upright. They secured her, checked her supplies, and left. She told me that at first, everything felt normal. She sat with her back against the stone, headlamp on low to conserve battery, listening to the sounds of the cave. Water dripping somewhere deeper in, faint echoes of her teammates moving away. And then the silence changed. The dripping stopped. The echoes faded. She shifted her position, and that was when she noticed the wall in front of her wasn't still anymore. She described it as subtle at first, a barely perceptible movement beneath the stone, like watching fabric settle, she said. The surface seemed to rise and fall, just a fraction of an inch. Amy told me she stared at it for a long time, trying to convince herself it was a trick of the light. She waved her hand in front of the beam, changed angles, blinked, but the movement didn't stop. The wall wasn't cracking or crumbling. It was expanding and contracting, slow and steady, like a chest drawing breath. Then it happened again, more pronounced this time. The stone bulged outward slightly before easing back. That was when she tried to move. She grabbed her pack and dragged herself away from the wall, ignoring the pain in her ankle. As she did, she noticed the tunnel behind her narrowing, drawing inward, like the space itself was tightening. That was when she saw the teeth. They didn't erupt all at once. They emerged gradually from the stone, pale and smooth at first, then sharpening as they extended. Rows of them embedded in what she'd thought was solid rock moments earlier. And then the eye opened. One eye, huge and wet, set deep within the tunnel wall. It rolled slowly, focusing on her. Amy screamed. She told me she could hear other screams too, echoing from deeper in the system. Her teammates. The tunnel began to close. Not in a collapse or a rock fall, the walls just drew together evenly, the teeth sliding past each other as the opening narrowed. Amy said she watched the light from deeper inside vanish as the tunnel sealed itself shut, and then everything went still. She was found hours later by a rescue team that couldn't explain what had happened. There was no collapse blocking the passage, no debris, no broken rock. But the tunnel Amy claimed had been there earlier was completely gone. Her teammates were never found, not a single trace of them. I thought Amy's story was an anomaly until I heard the second account. The second survivor was a man named Rick Bowman, a former miner who had been exploring abandoned shafts with a small group. His description matched Amy's in every major detail. The silence, the movement, the breathing walls, the teeth. Rick's incident happened deeper underground, far from any entrance. He was separated from the rest of his group by a bend in the tunnel when he felt the walls shift. He didn't see the eye because he didn't stay long enough. Rick ran. He described the tunnel behind him compressing as he moved, the stone flexing inward, narrowing the space just inches behind his shoulders. He tore skin from his arms, squeezing through a section that hadn't been that tight before. He made it out alone, but the rest of his group didn't. The third account was the one that finally convinced me there was no exaggeration. It came from a rescue report. A team responding to a missing person call found evidence of a sudden disappearance deep inside a mine-connected cave system. Equipment crushed inward, not buried. Helmets warped as if compressed evenly from all sides. No signs of a collapse or exit blockage. When I look back at the carving now, if the walls start breathing, run. I don't think it's poetic language, and I don't think it's shorthand. I think it's literal. No, I've never seen the walls breathe myself, but I have stood in places underground where things felt wrong, where the stone seems just a little closer than it had been seconds earlier. And every time that happens, I leave immediately. No gear check or discussion, no waiting to see if it gets worse. You don't study that phenomenon. You don't document it, you just run. Because the people who stayed long enough to understand it, they never came back. Rule number 5. If you come across ghost miners, stay with them for a while. The fifth rule didn't explain itself either. No dates or locations or extra markings. Just that. At the time, it was the only rule that didn't tell you how to survive something directly. Didn't say run or avoid. Didn't say bring anything. It told you to stop and do the opposite of what instinct would demand. Forrest was the one who explained what it meant. He didn't volunteer the information right away, We'd been quiet for a long time after finding the carvings, standing there with our lights trained on the rock, reading and rereading. "That one," Forrest said eventually. "That one's real old." He told us about the McGrath mining collapse of 1934, a coal mine cut too deep into unstable rock, support failure, 33 men underground when it happened. Rescue crews worked for days, but the tunnels kept shifting. Every attempt to reach them made things worse. And eventually the mine was sealed and abandoned. No bodies recovered. That history alone was unsettling, but it didn't explain the rule. Well, the incident happened during a routine survey of a natural cave system that intersected with old mining tunnels. We weren't looking for anything unusual. We didn't intend to go anywhere near the old workings. But underground, intent doesn't matter much. Rock shifts, water carves new routes, old passages open where they shouldn't. We were moving through a narrow limestone corridor when the stone became rougher, straighter and less organic. Tool marks cut into the walls, half eroded but still visible. Rusted metal fused into the rock in places. A length of old timber, blackened and soft with rot, jutted out from the ceiling. Forrest stopped immediately. "This is a mine," he said quietly. Laura checked her map. "That doesn't make sense," she said. And that was when we heard the voice. "Hello? Is someone there?" It was a man's voice. Adult, tired. Forrest didn't move or speak. He raised one hand slowly, palm down, telling us to stay where we were. "Please, I can hear you," the voice said. Laura took a step forward without thinking. Forrest caught her by the sleeve. "That's one of them," he whispered. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that it couldn't be. That this had to be something else, another caver or explorer. Somebody alive. But the deeper part of me already knew that wasn't true. The voice came again, clearer now. "Hello. We've been trapped for a while, but they'll be coming looking for us any time now." The word "us" hit hard. I stepped closer to the collapsed section of tunnel, careful not to touch anything. My headlamp illuminated a wall of fallen rock, jagged, packed tight, no clear opening. But there were gaps, narrow cracks between stones where air moved faintly in and out. "I can hear you," I said. "What's your name?" "Thomas," he said. "Thomas McGrath." Forrest closed his eyes. How long have you been down here, Thomas?" I asked. "Not long, just since the shift started. There was a loud noise and everything went dark. We've been waiting." I didn't ask what year it was, or how old he was. I didn't correct him when he said "we." Forrest lowered himself to the ground and sat back against the stone wall. Laura hesitated, eyes wet, then did the same. And I followed. That was the rule. Stay with them. So we did. We stayed there. Lights low, packs off. "So, what kind of work you do, Thomas?" I asked. "Coal," he began. "Have been at it since I was a boy. My father, too." "Do you have family?" Laura asked. "Yes," he said. "A wife. 2 kids. One's a new baby girl." Laura looked at Forrest, then at me. And we talked with him like that for a long time. We asked him about his work, his life, the men he was trapped with. He told us about the noise, the dust, how dark it got afterward. He said some of the men were hurt, but most were okay. Scared, but okay. "They're rested now," he said. "We're conserving our strength." At one point, he asked if we could spare some water. Forrest nodded to me. I pulled my bottle from my pack, and I carefully threaded the tube through one of the gaps in the rock. It took time, and I didn't rush. When Thomas took a drink, he sighed with relief. "Thank you. I have not had a drink in a long time." As time passed, his voice grew softer, slower. "They'll be looking for us any time now," he said again, his voice tired but hopeful. Forrest shot me a brief look, then nodded. We didn't promise rescue. We didn't tell him help was on the way, and we didn't say he was getting out. We let him believe what he needed to believe. Eventually, his voice trailed off. Long pauses stretched between sentences. Then silence. We stayed seated. Minutes passed, then more. Laura wiped her face with the back of her glove, shoulders shaking quietly. Forrest stayed still, eyes closed, breathing slow. When we finally stood up to leave, the tunnel was silent. There was no voice anymore. When I think about that rule now, I understand it better than the others. They know. Somewhere deep down, they know they aren't getting out. Maybe they know they're already dead. But they don't want to be alone. They want company. So if you ever hear a miner working where no one should be, or a voice calling from behind the rock, don't argue with it. Don't correct it. Don't tell them the truth they already sense. Just sit down, be good to them, then stay a while. Rule 6. If you see a German Shepherd underground, follow it. I didn't understand that rule for a long time. I'd been underground for years by then. I'd seen animals wander into cave entrances, bats, snakes, raccoons. I'd even seen a stray dog once, near daylight, skittish and half-starved. But deep underground, far past natural light, that didn't make sense. Forrest didn't comment on that one when we first found it. Neither did Laura. We took pictures, logged the carvings, and moved on. I didn't think about the rule again until the rescue call came in. It was late afternoon when we got the call. A partial collapse in an active cave system used for guided tours and training runs. Not a deep mine or a remote system, but one of the safer ones. Or at least it was supposed to be. 2 people were unaccounted for. A man in his 30s and a young girl, 8 years old. Father and daughter. They'd been part of a small group moving through a narrow section when a support slab gave way. The rest of the group made it out. Those 2 didn't. Forrest and I responded immediately. Laura was already nearby with another team and met us at the staging area. Rescue operations underground are chaos wrapped in procedure. Everybody knows their role, but nothing ever goes cleanly. Radios cut out, dust hangs in the air. Time stretches out. We entered through a secondary access point, moving fast but careful. The collapse wasn't total, more of a choke point filled with debris, the kind that traps without fully sealing. We could hear them before we saw them. The man was shouting hoarsely, voice cracking. The girl was crying, weak and scared, but alive. That mattered. That meant time still mattered. We were working our way toward him when I saw movement ahead. At first, I thought it was another rescuer. And then my light caught the shape properly. A dog. A big German Shepherd. Standing in the tunnel ahead of us, calm and steady. ears forward, eyes reflecting the beam of my headlamp. No dust on its coat, no signs of panic. Just waiting for us. Forrest stopped dead. The dog turned and started walking deeper into the cave, moving like it knew exactly where it was going. I remembered the rule then, and Forrest remembered it too. "Follow it," he said. We moved. The tunnel narrowed slightly, tighter than I would have chosen under normal circumstances. The dog moved through it without slowing. We followed, scraping packs and shoulders against stone, breathing hard. The air grew thicker with dust. The sound of the trapped man and girl faded, replaced by the dull thud of shifting rock somewhere deeper. The dog stopped at a break in the tunnel wall, a small opening I wouldn't have noticed if it hadn't been standing right there, just wide enough to squeeze through. The dog looked back at us once, and then went through. We followed, and on the other side was a low chamber partially shielded from the collapse by a natural rock rib. And that was where they were. The man was pinned by debris across his legs, bleeding but conscious. The girl was curled against his chest, crying softly. When the dog stepped into the light, the girl saw it and gasped. "A doggy," she said weakly. The man looked up, stunned. We worked fast. Laura stabilized the girl while Forrest assessed the debris. I took position near the father, talking to him, keeping him focused. The dog stayed close, watching, occasionally moving just enough to stay out of the way, calm and alert. We freed the man's legs enough to move him, and then got the girl into my arms. She clung to my neck immediately, sobbing into my shoulder. "It's okay," I told her, "I've got you." The dog moved ahead as we started back, and we didn't question the route, we followed. The tunnel the dog led us through wasn't the shortest, but it was stable. No loose stone or sharp drops, no tight squeezes that would have slowed us down carrying injured people. At one point, another rescuer called over the radio, asking where we were. Forrest gave coordinates that didn't match the main routes. We reached daylight, just as my legs started to shake from exhaustion. Outside, medics rushed in, taking the man and the girl from us. The girl was alive. The man was alive. Both injured and scared, but breathing. And that was when I noticed the dog again. It stood a short distance away, watching me. As the medics worked, the dog turned toward the tree line. I took a step toward it. "Hey," I said without thinking. The dog paused, and I saw the collar then. Old leather, cracked, worn smooth with age. Stamped into the metal tag were two words. "Old Sarge," it read. The dog looked at me once, just once, and then it ran into the woods and was gone. Later, when things had calmed down, I asked around. Nobody had brought a dog underground. Nobody had seen it enter. An old rescuer pulled me aside when I described it. "Old Sarge," he said quietly. "Yeah, I heard of him." When I think about the rules now, that last one makes sense in a way the others don't. The frogs will kill you. Getting lost will kill you. Darkness will kill you. Some things underground don't let you leave. But sometimes, rarely, something down there helps. And if it does, you don't question it. You don't hesitate. You follow. Because that rule wasn't carved for curiosity. It was carved because someone survived. Well, I'm a bit older now, but I still go back to that place sometimes. The chamber where the rules are carved hasn't changed much. The stone is smoother now, worn by time and water. But the words are still there if you know where to look. I stand there longer than I need to, reading them over the way I did the first time. There are 6 rules. Don't lick the green frogs. Always mark your path. If you go underground alone, bring tacs. If the walls start breathing, run. If you come across ghost miners, stay with them for a while. And if you see a German shepherd underground, follow it. They don't replace training or equipment. They don't make you invincible by any means. They exist alongside the basics, the things every caver is taught on day one. People die underground for ordinary reasons. Rockfall, bad air, equipment failure, getting lost, doing something real stupid and not realizing it until it's too late. Those are the common ones. But every now and then, something else happens. Something that doesn't fit neatly into a report or a safety briefing. Something you won't hear about unless you've been around long enough or you've seen it yourself. That's why the rules are there. Not to explain anything or scare anyone, just to warn the next person. If you ever go underground, be mindful. Take your time, pay attention. Remember that the dark doesn't care how confident you feel or how many times you've done it before. And most of the time, you'll make it back out. But if you don't, it won't matter whether it was nature, carelessness, or something much worse that took you. Down there, the difference doesn't mean much. So remember the rules and be careful.